Right now at noon, the bitter cold is here. I'll talk about how long it will last coming up.
Plus, President Trump ramping up the international standoff over Greenland. How European leaders are trying to push back. This is News 3 Now at noon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Josh Freiter. First Warn Weather leads us off at this hour as we're dealing with dangerously cold temperatures and breezy conditions. Let's begin now with the latest from First Warn meteorologist Jacob Montesano. Hi, Jacob.
Hey, Josh, temperatures right now below zero for a lot of Dane County, -1 right now in Madison. Across the region, even the warmest spots are only about 2 degrees above that zero level. But the bigger story is the winds and the wind chills. So let's take a look at the current wind speeds up near 10 to 20 miles per hour. Certainly have seen gustier winds, but when it's this cold, you really could feel that wind impact you. And as we look at those wind chills in the negative teens to negative 20s, they actually have been improving over the last couple of hours, if you can believe it. But it is still dangerously cold out there, and throughout the day, there is not going to be much relief. Alert day conditions are going to continue all day into tomorrow morning. Now, we may not see those wind chills in the negative 30s that we saw this morning for the rest of today or tonight, but it is still going to be very, very cold. As we take a look at the forecast for the rest of the day, highs are only going to be a few degrees above zero. We will see partly sunny skies, but that sunshine won't help much. Taking a look then at the overnight forecast, actual temperatures may be a bit colder compared to last night, but the winds are going to improve, which will lead to wind chills not quite as bad, but still very cold, likely in the negative teens and negative 20s once again. Now, if you think this air is cold, just you wait, because there may be even colder air by the end of the week where we have another alert day in the forecast, and we also have more snow in the forecast. So lots of winter weather this week. I'll talk all about it coming up a bit later.
It's nasty out there. All right, Jacob, thank you. We're tracking the road conditions at this hour. This is a live look at the DOT's 511 map. Right now, many of the main roads around Madison are considered partially covered. You can track the forecast for yourself on the First Warn Weather app. It has hourly planners, road conditions, and radar. Download it for free wherever you get your apps. Moving now to the state capitol, the state assembly has passed legislation that would suspend pay for judges accused of judicial misconduct while their cases are under review. This bill follows the December conviction of Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. A jury found her guilty of obstruction for helping an undocumented immigrant avoid ICE agents. The legislation guarantees judges will receive back pay if they are found innocent. The bill now moves to the Senate. State Republicans are moving closer with a clawback of what they see as an overreach by Governor Evers. The proposed constitutional amendment would ban the state from restricting gathering in places of worship in response to a state emergency. This comes from Republican opposition to Evers' Safer at Home order during the pandemic. This forced non-essential businesses to close and limit indoor gatherings. The joint resolution passed the Assembly by a vote of 56 to 43. If the resolution passes the Senate, it will appear on your ballot in November. The Pentagon has now put 1,500 U.S. troops on standby in Alaska. They would go to Minneapolis if President Trump invokes the Insurrection Act. Over the weekend, the Minnesota National Guard said state troops had been mobilized and put on standby to help keep the peace if necessary at Governor Walz's direction. Multiple sources tell CBS News the Justice Department is now investigating Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey over an alleged conspiracy to impede federal immigration agents.
We are at a place right now where the Department of Justice or the federal government could be coming after senators and governors and mayors simply for speaking for their respective constituencies and disagreeing with this federal administration.
In a Face the Nation appearance Sunday, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem appeared to confirm the agent who shot Renee Good will undergo a standard internal DHS review to see whether he violated protocol. But she also doubled down on the agent claim that the agent acted, quote, to defend his life. President Trump is escalating the standoff with European allies over Greenland. As Natalie Brand reports, the president is threatening new tariffs on some countries that oppose his plan.
A trade war is in no one's interest.
European leaders are pushing back as President Trump doubles down on his push to acquire Greenland, issuing a new threat to impose tariffs of up to 25% on key allies, including Denmark, France, and the UK, until a deal is reached.
Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure.
Amid calls to de-escalate, Norway's prime minister confirmed he received a message from President Trump saying in part due to the decision to award someone other than himself the Nobel Peace Prize, he no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace and can now think about what is good and proper for the United States.
We are not going to outsource our national security.
The Trump administration maintains it must control the strategic Arctic island to protect the U.S. from threats posed by China and Russia.
If there were an attack on Greenland from Russia, from some other area, we would get dragged in. So better now, peace through strength, make it part of the United States.
But lawmakers from both sides of the aisle said the standoff over Greenland is making the world less safe. And a bipartisan group just wrapped up a trip to Denmark to try and reassure allies in person.
Part of the point of this trip is to have a bipartisan group of members of Congress listen respectfully to our friends.
Greenland needs to be viewed as our ally, not as an asset.
Over the weekend, thousands of protesters demonstrated in Denmark and Greenland against President Trump's plan, saying the island is not for sale. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
New CBS News polling shows opposition across party lines to taking over Greenland. 70% of Americans say they do not want the president using federal dollars to buy the territory. An overwhelming 86% say they do not want him to invade using military force. Today, we honor the birthday of iconic civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. MLK Jr. would have turned 97 last Thursday. Born in 1929, and King's involvement with the civil rights movement dates back to the 1950s. He led the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955 after Rosa Parks famously refused to give her seat to a white passenger. King quickly became the de facto face of the growing movement. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964, the same year the Civil Rights Act was passed. King also spoke out against the Vietnam War in 1967. He was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, the following year. Tonight, the community will come together to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The 41st annual Madison and Dane County MLK Day observance takes place at the Overture Center. Freedom songs begin at 5. The main program begins at 6. This year's event features a keynote address from Mark Lamont Hill, a renowned author and social justice advocate. There will also be awards and music from the MLK Community Choir. This event is free and open to the public. Beloit College invites the community to its Martin Luther King Jr. convocation. That's at 4:30 this afternoon in Eaton Chapel. This year's theme, Brave Belonging, Building Community Through Shared Humanity. It focuses on the courage it takes to create inclusive spaces and recognize one another's full humanity. That is a free event open to all. A reminder, if you live in Madison, the city is not collecting trash or recycling today. This is also an observance of the MLK holiday. Drop-off sites will be closed. If today is your regular pickup day, please put your cart out by 6:30 tomorrow morning. There are no changes to tomorrow's trash pickup. You can find more information at cityofmadison.com. Bus service is also modified in observance of the holiday. Today, some routes are operating on a Saturday schedule, including several lettered routes. Routes 55 and 75 will continue to run on their regular weekday schedules, while Route 80 will operate on a shortened weekday recess schedule. Routes 81 through 84 will not operate. For paratransit customers, all standing rides are canceled today. Riders must schedule a casual ride. Still ahead for us on News 3 Now at noon. If you have a question or concern about your plants or garden, now's the time to send us your questions via email to tips@channel3000.com. Lisa Briggs from the Bruce Company is joining us later in the broadcast with the answers. But first, after the break, what films finished on top of the weekend box office? Plus, how much Americans say could save if credit card companies comply with President Trump's cap on interest rates.
France is leading a charge to activate the European Union's anti-coercion instrument if President Trump follows through on tariff threats linked to his push to acquire Greenland. It has never been activated before and would curb imports of goods and services. On Friday, America's top trading partner, Canada, cut its 100% import tax on Chinese electric vehicles in exchange for lower tariffs on Canadian farm products. Canada has also been a target of U.S. tariffs. Credit card companies have have until Tuesday to comply with the president's demand for a 10% cap on interest rates. The White House has not made clear what actions will be taken if the industry does not follow through with lower interest rates. Researchers have found such a cut would save Americans around $100 billion in interest a year. And this long weekend at the box office, Avatar: Fire and Ash hit #1 for the 5th week in a row, notching another 13.3 million in ticket sales, according to studio estimates. It just edged out 28 years later, The Bone Temple at $13 million. Zootopia 2 ended up in the 3rd spot with $8.8 million. That's your CBS News Money Watch report. For more, log on to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the CBS Broadcast Center, I'm Jesse Mitchell.
Right now, the National Retail Federation Expo is putting a heavy focus on artificial intelligence. Some companies expect this year to be all about agentic commerce. That's AI helping you find what you're looking for. Then the next step in retail is using that tech to make it easier to make the purchase. Google recently added new shopping tools built directly into their search engine and announced a partnership with Walmart. This allows shoppers to find and buy products directly through Google's AI. According to retail research firm CI&T, about 3/4 of consumers are using AI tools at least occasionally in their path to purchase. No stock numbers this afternoon as the markets are closed for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. When we come back, we're tracking the alert day in the First Warn forecast. And later on Live at 4, Brady Mallory talks with a local business owner about a warm way to enjoy the cold. With the markets being closed for MLK Day, Pam Yankee is also out of the radio barn. She'll return tomorrow. Time now for your certified most accurate forecast in Madison with First Warn meteorologist Jacob Montesano. Hi, Jacob.
Yeah, hey Josh, it is a cold one out there and conditions are going to continue to be cold with a little bit of a brief warm up, but it's still not really going to be that warm. And when we do see that little bit of a warm up, we'll see potentially around 1 to 4 inches of snow Tuesday night into Wednesday. And then after that snow, we'll see another Arctic blast of cold air by week's end. And this second cold stint maybe even colder than what we're seeing right now. Let's start with the snowfall, though. For the rest of the today, we'll see on and off cloud cover. We'll see clear skies overnight into Tuesday morning, which will allow temperatures to continue to fall. Then for most of Tuesday, we'll be dry, clouds increasing later in the day. Tuesday night is when we're going to see that snowfall move through our region. Most of the area, especially Madison and places to the south, will see snowfall. The good news is that this is mostly going to be during the overnight hours, but we definitely could see some snowfall accumulation. In fact, many areas will likely see some light snowfall accumulation around 1 to 4 inches. Some areas could see isolated amounts a bit higher than that. And again, the best chance of that snowfall accumulation will be for Madison and surrounding areas, specifically to the south. Further northern counties still could see some of that snow, just not quite as much snowfall accumulation. Now, let's talk about the alert day. Now, we have 2 alert days. One right now will last through Tuesday morning, where we could see wind chills in the -20s. My guess is these -30s, that was really only going to be this morning, so that has come to an end, but it doesn't mean it's going to be much better, and it's still going to be fairly dangerous with -teens to -20s. But then we're going to have that second alert day for the similar conditions, bitter cold for Friday and Saturday, and it's very possible this round of cold air will be even colder than today. So let's take a look at the wind chills. Right now, they are in the -teens. Not really going to get much better for the rest of today into Tuesday morning. Finally, by the afternoon Tuesday, they'll get back above 0. Certainly still cold. And then looking at Wednesday, that day will be the warmest day of the week, but it's still going to be on the colder side as we'll see the wind chills in the 20s. Then for Thursday, it'll be cold again. Wind chills should stay at least around 0, if not below 0, but it's going to plummet once we get to Friday morning once again. Wind chills back possibly in the -30s, and there's not going to be much relief for all day Friday or all day Saturday, where we'll see wind chills in the -teens to -20s, even during the afternoon hours, and it could continue to be bitterly cold for Sunday as well. Looking at the 2-week temperature outlook, even beyond just this next weekend, we are going to continue to see below normal temperatures. Really, the entire eastern half of the United States is expected to see bitterly cold temperatures, or at least below normal temperatures. through the end of the month and to start February. So looking at the full 10-day forecast, we do have that snowfall Tuesday night into Wednesday, but beyond that, not really tracking much other snowfall, but we are tracking very cold temperatures still. And for reference, tonight the forecast low is -6, and by Friday and Saturday, the low was forecasted for -10 and -12, with even daytime highs possibly staying below 0. And again, these are just the actual temperatures. Wind chills will be colder than that. So again, it looks like it's going to be even colder by Friday and Saturday. And even when it warms up after that, it's still going to be on the colder side. So not much relief if you're not a fan of these cold temperatures.
All right, Jacob. Thank you, I think.
It's not my fault.
I know. You're just the messenger. Well, we are down to the final 4 teams in the NFL playoffs with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line this coming Sunday. First up is the New England Patriots taking on the Denver Broncos. The Patriots took down Houston on Sunday while Denver beat the Buffalo. You can catch that game right here on Channel 3. Kickoff is set for 2 p.m. Then the Seattle Seahawks take on the Los Angeles Rams. Seattle took down San Francisco while the Rams knocked off the Bears last night in overtime. Kickoff for that game is scheduled for 5:30 on Fox. Ahead at noon, Lisa Briggs from the Bruce Company is here answering your plant and gardening questions. You can email them to tips@channel3000.com, and we'll get the answers next. Welcome back this afternoon. Lisa Briggs from the Bruce Company is here answering your plant and gardening questions. You can email them to tips@channel3000.com. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for braving the weather.
Oh, it's so cold out. Oh.
It's brutal. You didn't even bring a plant today because it's so cold.
I didn't bring a plant today. The good news is, though, that we have the super cold weather, but we have snow on the ground.
Snow cover, finally.
So that's awesome for plants. Snow is the best insulator for plants. You think that it's keeping the cold in, but it's really not. It's fluffy and it traps air in there. And it's good for things that are planted and also good for the parts above ground. One thing to watch, if you've got like broadleaf evergreens like rhododendron or boxwood, and you notice that the leaves are curling up, we call that quilling. They're just minimizing the surface area where to stop some respiration. When it warms up, they'll flatten back out again.
Oh, interesting.
I know.
No, it's just like, it's nice. Obviously, there's positives with the snow, but it also looks good. I always say if it's going to be cold,
it's got to be pretty,
we
right?
might as well have the snow. It just brightens things up a little bit.
It does.
Instead of the brown blah out there, all the mud from when we got the 50s. Just think it was 50-some degrees a week ago today. Remember
I know, it
those
was
days?
crazy. I was in Atlanta last week and it was warm and then cold, and it was so funny. It was 38. They said it was too dangerous to walk your dog.
Oh boy, come to Wisconsin. All right, well, hey, we've got one question in so far. We're going to start with Jean. Jean got a poinsettia in late November, and now she says it's dropping leaves. Is it normal, or is she overwatering, underwatering? The plant is fertilized.
Okay, so let's just talk about general poinsettia care. They're from Mexico, so they like a warm space. They also like very bright light, and they like to dry between waterings. If Jane got her poinsettia and it was in a sort of a decorative foil container, and she isn't taking it out of that, when she waters it, there's a good chance that water has accumulated in there and it's causing the plant to be overwatered. So let it dry between waterings, take that off, put it in a plate, or take that out of there and then water it, and then when it drains through, put it back. And then, like I said, check the temperature and the light. Poinsettias shouldn't be browning right now. They usually last quite a long time. And I would add, too, that you don't need to fertilize it at this time.
All right.
So just, it's probably a watering issue. Or cold.
I feel like, well, yeah, one of those two. You know, I always applaud people for keeping their Christmas plants going. Like, I heard somebody had their Christmas tree that was still alive, and I was like, wow, we're almost to the end of January. But if you take care of something.
We always hear about people, they'll call and they'll say they have a Christmas cactus, and it's 40 years old. And how did they do that? So Christmas cactus are a lot like poinsettias. They are in the succulent family. They, however, like it to be a little chillier. They don't like really warm weather. So again, you want to let it dry between waterings. Make sure it's in bright light. But if you have a colder spot in your house, or you keep your house a little cooler, that's a really good plant to have. Another one that we got at Christmas time would be amaryllis. You know, with those big showy stalks with those giant, really exotic flowers. Those you want to cut the flower stalks back as soon as they're done flowering, And then you want to keep the leaves alive. So let the surface dry between waterings, but keep those leaves going. And then bright light. And then once we get to past Groundhog's Day, then you can start fertilizing your plants again.
Right.
So you want to do that when the days are noticeably getting longer.
All right, Lisa. Well, thank you. Jean was the only question today. People are quiet here for the holiday.
They're all celebrating MLK Day.
And they're stuck at home in the cold. Let's get to Jacob now with the final check of your forecast.
Thanks, Josh. Cold weather is going to continue. A brief warm-up Wednesday where we also will see some snow Tuesday night, then potentially even colder weather once we get towards the end of the week. So this cold stint is nowhere from being over.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you at 4.